Hi all, Sereena Noor, your host for #Smartgirlschat, and join the Essential Woman Foundation group. You're more than welcome, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. Today we're going to be speaking to Amenti Anita Francis. We've had Amenti on before. We were speaking to her about 5D and 3D relationships and exploring the difference between those relationships. However, today we're going to be discussing female and male consciousness, and also touching on the topic of the Rkelly issue.
Greetings. Hey. Yeah. Oh my god, I got scared then because I couldn't see the camera. You know, the camera comes up on the name and somebody, so I couldn't see it. And because I had issues with Tash today, I thought, oh my god, I hope this is not happening again. Oh, you look absolutely beautiful. I'm loving the blue. I'm absolutely loving the blue, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The blue is. Do you know what? Because I was going to do it on my laptop, but it wouldn't let me add. So I'm going to see if I can position this properly. 1 second.
It's only because I want to be fast and see your headscarf and stuff. That's I just want to see the full beauty, the full range.
Oh,
I just want to see the
goes
full
halfway
range.
down.
I'm just being fast. Ignore me.
This is as far as it goes. We got halfway.
Oh, it's
so there.
Go, girlfriend.
You know we got to be multitasking, looking glamorous on top and then doing the rest down the bottom.
Yeah. You know this.
Girl.
You know this. I says, you know this. You know this.
Definitely.
Greetings. Definitely. Thank you so much for coming on and being a guest on the show today. It's absolutely awesome having you on.
My pleasure.
We're going to be, thank you. Because obviously I had some technical difficulties with Tash, as I've just explained. She is going to fix it because we do need her on. You know,
okay.
The topic that she was going to talk about was a really cool topic. So she's going to sort that out. However, you have gracefully stepped in. So giving thanks for that. Everything's for a reason. Exactly. Everything's for a reason. Everything's meant to be. So I wanted to chat with you today about feminine and masculine consciousness and the current, how that relates to the current circumstance, let's say, that's going on at the moment with the whole Rkelly issue.
Okay.
Yeah. So I saw your video and you was making some really great points, and you just took it to another place. You know, you took the whole conversation to another place that I think would interest a lot of people, especially us who, hi Sharad, especially us who are into self-development and doing the inner work, you know, and understanding who we are and how to actually ascend into the gateway and not reincarnate. So, you know, with that knowledge, it would be awesome to hear what you have to say, sis. So, you know, take it away. What is feminine and masculine consciousness?
Okay, am I coming through clearly? Because you're breaking up a little bit, so I just want to check if I'm coming through clearly. Yeah? Brilliant.
All right, so thank you. Clearly.
Fantastic. Thank you, sis, for inviting me on. It's always a pleasure. You know that me and you were like this. I love the energy and the synergy. Yeah. So I appreciate everything that you're doing, and thank you. I think the universe just does what it does. And I think that there's a reason why this energy, this information is coming through now and at this time. So just want to say welcome to each and everyone that's on the live, and everyone who's going to watch it after in the replay. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We give thanks to the Most High, the divine creator of all there is, for bringing us together in this present moment. We give thanks for the gift of life, for the gift of breath, for the gift of this new day, and the opportunity to come together and speak and be inspired and be empowered. We ask for the ancestors to surround us in a fiery protection of love, so that we may have the highest vibrational energy moving through all of us, and that wisdom can come through in alignment with our highest good. In the name of divine love, divine power, and divine wisdom, we give thanks. Ashe.
Ashe.
All right. So as you know, I have to open up the energy in the right way. Okay. And so yeah. Okay. So we're in a very, very powerful time. Okay. So we're in 2019. 2019 is the year of the goddess. And what that means is we've been going through a divine feminine resurgence over the past couple of years. You hear a lot about the divine feminine rising. And we're coming to a point now where the divine feminine is maturing. And what I'll do is I'll dress it back to help you to understand what this all means. So basically, we've been living in patriarchal rule, which is masculine dominated rule, for quite some time. And everything is an experience. So when the original human was created, it was a woman who was able to create from herself. Just as Ra is able to create from himself as being the solar consciousness, the feminine was able to procreate from herself through parthenogenesis, being able to basically impregnate herself through semen that we naturally have in our bone marrow in the spine. Okay, and so that process would be our main process of creation. And at that time, we used to really create women because we could only create that which we are. Okay, at first. During the evolution of ourself experiencing ourselves in that way, we consciously chose to separate ourselves, to experience that experience of separation. Okay, and these are based on different cultural stories about how we came into being and how the world was created. But basically, long and short of it is that we have made a dissension from source being a star, coming down into this physical body, and we're here to experience what it means to be human, what it means to be in this body. We've gone from being a thought to being an essence to being hermaphrodite to being separate. And in that journey, we've also experienced matriarchal rule. So that's when feminine energy was dominant on the planet. When you look at the Amazonian women, you know, those kind of women that were warriors at the time, you know, we had the whole planet basically utilizing that feminine energy. Then we separated from ourselves, we gave birth to our sons, and then our sons became our men. The sons now became the leaders of the community and the leaders of nation, giving us a polarity experience of what it's like to be feminine led, and also what it's like to be masculine led. Now within that, even especially in the patriarchal rule, there's still been a lot of suppression that's taken place, especially of the feminine energy. So the woman has been seen as a threat. Witchcraft laws has meant that her main power, which is her intuition and the ability to work in the hidden realms, was demonized. She became basically pushed to the back as a servant, and the masculine energy was pushed forward. And so what happened in that state is that through patriarchal rule, there was a feminine suppression, so to speak. Now, as we're moving out of that experience, we're moving into the experience of balance. And so in order for us to be balanced, we have to have, number one, a recalibration of energy, which means like if we were in patriarchal rule, which is masculine dominant rule before, there needs to be a push of feminine energy, an uprising of feminine energy to make it balanced, okay? And within that, you get men who are experiencing what it's like to have their feminine energy abused, and women who are also learning what it's like to be more masculine than feminine. Okay, so we have masculine and feminine energies within us, every single one of us. We all have masculine and feminine. And if we are a female, then our feminine energy is biologically more predominant. And if we're a male, our masculine energy is biologically more predominant. However, masculine and feminine qualities are not down to whether you're male or female. They are down to qualities and principles. So the masculine energy is driven, it goes out, it's expressive, it's expansive. And the feminine energy is very introvert, very intuitive, very subtle. Okay, so bringing it to where we are now, you'll see that in our society, there's a lot of crises around gender, a lot of confusion around gender. People are unsure. Some people say that they come in with the consciousness of a female, but their body is male. There's a whole load of stuff going on, and that's gifting us with an experience that will help us to get to the point of rebalancing. With this Rkelly thing, what it is bringing up a lot of the pain from the divine feminine energy. But what it is showing you as well is also that males have also been violated, and their female energy violated as well. So you get women who have been violated and you get men who have been violated. When you look at the Rkelly situation, he himself went through sexual abuse, and that sexual abuse then made him become a predator. So when he was a child, that's when he's in his innocence, which is what we connect feminine energy with, abuses other young people when they're in their innocence as well. Okay, so it's that hurt person healing, that hurt person hurting another person. Why is this important? It's important because for a very long time, there has been this culture of abuse of feminine energy and abuse of the feminine aspect, and it's kind of not been brought to the fore. It's normalized, like it's okay and like it's normal. And in order for us to reach the next stage, which is this embodiment of this goddess energy, and I'll explain a bit more of that as I go along, it's about balance. People think we're moving into another matriarchal society. We're not. We're moving into balance. We're moving into harmony. Okay. This is why you get a lot of men coming out who are talking about being abused. A lot of men are scared to be in relationships. A lot of women are feeling like they've had to be the man, and so therefore they don't no longer know how to be full feminine anymore. It's basically made everything become so meshed up so that we can relearn and reinvestigate what it means to be masculine, what it means to be feminine, and how we work that together in harmony. Because you may have a man who is more feminine in his energy, but he's a man, right? He likes to cook, he likes to create things, he likes to make things, right? And then you might have a woman who is female, but more masculine in her energy. She likes to go out and do things. She likes to be that outward energy. Now, in our current state of mind, those two people might have a problem coexisting based on what is expected of them. But in terms of their natural energy, they actually go very well together. So it's teaching us how to understand masculine and feminine energy, to see our pain in each other, and no longer stand back whilst people around us are being abused. There is no place for cognitive dissonance when we move into this next stage, because we're moving into the realm of the heart. When you move into the realm of the heart, this is what they mean by fifth dimension. When you move in the realm of the heart now, it means we can feel each other's pain. It means we know each other intrinsically. I am you and you are me. So I cannot be demonizing you and hurting you and judging you, and you cannot be doing that to me either. So that's why we're in this space right now where we've both been through so much pain, and we have to look at each other and see ourselves in each other. And we also have to be willing to do the work that it takes to heal from those situations. Because if we don't heal from them, they're just going to continue to create more trauma and more of this legacy of masculine and feminine conflict. And nor is it about us like judging the male energies. Like even with the Rkelly thing, it's being brought to the forefront, but really it is ultimately about forgiveness, understanding what has took place, understanding what happened to him, bringing it to the fore, holding people accountable, but also forgiveness. Because each one of us has chosen to be whoever it is that we are in this time and go through those lessons and experiences so that we can master ourselves, each and every one of us. So ultimately, we have to forgive so that we can move forward. But we're coming to the forefront now because there has been this abuse of this feminine energy, and the men, they're feeling it too. And so for us to understand, what it means to be masculine, what it means to be feminine, we've got to pick up the pieces of this whole shattered picture and look at each other and see each other, see the pain and also see the power. And that's how we move forward and learn to walk in harmony.
Wow. Like in a nutshell.
Even my bindi fell off. It was like, whoa.
I got cum, so mine ain't coming on.
In it. Yeah.
So
that's an enough.
Okay, so I have been observing and watching people and listening to them with the whole Rkelly situation.
Yeah.
And my thing is the way that people have reacted, and it's almost like people have gone into this judge and jury situation rather than what can I do, to maybe listen to people who have been abused more, or, you know, how can they take responsibility for the parts that they've played? So, for example, I don't know if they look around and see where they've probably, a friend has shared that they've been abused, or they've actually seen something that, you know, seemed weird and didn't act upon it in whatever way it needed acted upon. I spoke at an event about a couple of months ago, actually, in Birmingham, was talking about abuse, and it was interesting to observe how people had lots of stories to tell where they had witnessed different types of abuse amongst children, whether it was assaulting children, you know, sexual, whatever, just misconduct between anyone, and everyone had examples to give. Everyone in the room had examples to give, but it was interesting when I asked the question, and what did you do about that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. There's
the whole, you know, it was more about what they feared on was going to happen to them. So it was less about what was actually the injustice, what was happening to that child or that person. It was more about how that was going to affect them, you know. And I've been abused in my life, and it's like, even when I look at the way that the people around me reacted, even from a young age, because I was abused quite young, you know, and then growing up, it's almost like I was silenced. You know, it wasn't it whether I was believed or not was a different issue. However, it was more about, they kind of like, oh, really? But there was no encouragement for me to kind of report or whatever. It was more about how it made them feel. You know, there's times when I felt as though I was being negative by talking about my abuse. You know, it wasn't seen as a positive thing for me to speak out, even in that private space. So for me, I've just found it very interesting how, with this whole Rkelly issue, people have like taken to judging and jurying, and, you know, looking at the shame it brings on the community, or men as black people as a nation, rather than how can we all look at ourselves as individuals, subjectively, and see how we can be a part of the change, and what am I going to do as an individual? How am I going to act different? How am I going to take care of those people differently? The other day I was watching a video, and there was a lady in America talking about, you know, it's not within black people's nature to be abusive and sexually assault people. And I'm just like, I'm not being funny, but what happened to the compassion for the women? You took to the stage, basically, you took to the video, did a whole video on, you know, the shame that these men are bringing on the nation, and the fact that it's not within black people's nature. Rape doesn't have a color, you know. Abuse doesn't have a color. The same way masculine and feminine energy doesn't necessarily have a color. At the end of the day, fundamentally, that is the vessel. You are your spirit first.
That's
and
it.
It depends on what happens to you in your circumstances. It then commands that vessel to act in a certain way, and they so happen to be black, white, Indian, blue, purple, or whatever, you know. So there needs to be a level of education amongst us as black people to see that actually, you know, the current way that we're dealing with things, we may need to take counsel from the people who we seem to be so against, in regards to how they're actually dealing with it. You know, because I see that the white community, for example, they've got a very good structure in terms of how they support people who have been abused, or who experience some kind of violence. They're very much focusing on the men at the moment, things like that. So rather than, you know, ridiculing those people and acting like that's their nature, why not seek counsel with them and look at how they're doing things, and, you know, take on that characteristic, because obviously it's bringing positive change. Okay, yes, a black woman started the hashtag Me Too movement. However, you know, everybody has come together, taken to the streets, and said this is not happening anymore. You know, when are we as black people going to do that as well?
Sis, do you know what? I mean, you're so true, and there's quite a few points. Hold on one second. Sorry. Can you see me? Brilliant. All right. So Yeah, there's a few things that I'd say about that, because I also saw people's comments. I even saw people who, you know, are advocates for children saying things like, oh, so we're talking about Rkelly, but what about priests and this and that? And I had to put a comment that says, well, all of them need to be stopped. I don't understand where in your mind you think it's okay for one and not the other. And for me, it's not about the person, it's all about the act. Okay, it's all about what's taking place. And what is showing to me is that we're very much still suffering from post-traumatic slave syndrome. And even if we didn't go through it directly, because there's some people that, you know, actually their families did not go through that, we are being brainwashed into it every time we watch those programs. Look at it like this: a lot of the issues that we have in our community is down to that time. If you were a slave, let's say you're a slave, right, and you have a husband, even your husband, you cannot look after like he's your husband, because he is a slave. So whenever something's going wrong, you have to bite your tongue. You can't defend him. You can't do anything. You are powerless, right? Same thing. You know that your children are going to be abused. The slave masters, they rape the children, don't they? You can't do anything about it. So what do? You normalize it. You act like it's not happening. You say, don't worry about it, little Sally. This is always what happens. It never happened, or whatever. This is from slavery times. This mental cognitive dissonance is from slavery, because if you don't have any power to change a situation, you'll try and normalize it just so that you can cope with it. But we're no longer in the cages, but it's already been mentally conditioned and programmed within our consciousness to be like this. Do you understand what I mean? So it is coming to the front. It is coming to the forefront so that we can ask ourselves, who told us that this was normal? Who? Like, I had a conversation on my show the other day, on my radio show, and I was thinking about, I'm on Omega FM radio every Tuesday from 10 to 12. It's called the Awake the One show, and it's just about spirituality, health, well-being, and just conscious conversation. But we were talking about I had a problem, as I'm a mother and I've got 5 children, and I've meant that I'm pretty much I'm feeling like I'm looking after them all on my own. And I had a moment where I thought to myself, who said that it's okay? Sorry, can you see me?
Yeah, I can see it. Kind of just went thinking. You said, who said that it, you said,
who said it's, yeah, who said that that is okay? You know, when you speak to some people, they're like, well, you know, you're a woman, you're supposed to look after them. And they wonder why all of these black women are running around with mental health problems. Who said that that is okay for one person to look after so many lives and be responsible for so many lives, and they're living themselves? That's why we used to have a village where you have the grandmother looks after the kids. Why does the grandmother look after the kids? Because she is elder in her wisdom. She's experienced life already. When a mother, when she has a child, she is physically ready to go in the world and do things. She's not physically ready to look after children. She doesn't have the wisdom. She doesn't have the experience. So to put a woman in that position, and we walk around thinking like it's normal, that's mad. You know, you'll hear about a man who's beat his woman, and it's normal. These things are not normal. It's not normal. And so in order for us to bring change, we have to start thinking about things. We have to actually hold each other accountable and say, you know what, brother, I know you're not well. I know you think this is okay, but it's not. She's underage. Yeah. If we were to do that and hold each other accountable, this thing will be eradicated from our lineage, completely eradicated. Sorry, sis, give me 1 second.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for watching. Hope you're enjoying. Feel free to ask questions and comment, etc., and continue to like so that it builds up the algorithm so people can see us that we're watching. Just bringing it back to the point of you know, embracing the whole feminine aspect of self and being a single mother. Yeah. For me, I'm ever learning about myself and ever training myself to be my authentic self as much as I can. And one of the things that I found difficult on that journey, probably for the last 2 years, I've actually being really embracing in the feminine aspect of myself. And I found that because I am a single mother, I was in my masculine a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've really had to kind of be very conscious of that, so that my son can see me feminine, because he learns about his feminine through me, and he will then manifest his own feminine, you know, from being around me. So I'm very conscious of that, and I'm very mindful of how, you know, the way that we're not kind of having, you know, the way it's difficult to have relationships these days, where people are comfortable with the woman and the woman's comfortable with the man, etc., etc. Because even when, you know, when you're a single mother and then you do meet someone, you're still in your masculine to a certain degree, because
Definitely.
that person, even though you're, you know, you try your hardest to be feminine around that man, you know, ultra feminine as I call it, you're still not as feminine as he may need you to be, because of the fact that he doesn't see your kids as his own. So you still have to compartmentalize how you're managing that situation. So
Definitely.
I don't, it's very, very difficult. I done a video on YouTube about, you know, when I realized that I was interacting with my children's dads as though like very matriarchal, but it was very negative. It wasn't nurturing, and it wasn't kind. It was like I was almost demanding and bullying these men into a space of being masculine. But I'm being masculine. So, and I've learned that there's a way to deal with men. I mean, what I've realized is that I don't think like a man, and I have to communicate with a man in a manly way, the same way I expect a man to communicate with me as though I'm a woman. So I feel like that's where the kind of clash comes in, and I can see how that fundamentally the root of why I'm a single mom and he's now not around the children.
Well,
Yeah.
that's another subject as well entirely, because most of the time we don't set our intentions of what we want or expect within a relationship. And that's another thing just within our community, because we've been through so much struggle together. We kind of don't necessarily know how to communicate what it is that we want. And also our brothers can sometimes feel like they are inadequate or don't know how to, I'm not saying all, but some don't know how to be this masculine figure that we want. And that's why I think, again, we have to get to a place of understanding, a place of healing, but also being willing to say what you want from what you don't want. A lot of the relationships that we're going into, we don't actually state what we want until we're halfway in it, sometimes already pregnant. And so then we're trying to create something from someone that was never there, that they didn't have that, you know? So I think we have to become conscious about our decision making when we are having those relationships. And as you said, just be aware of the fact that when we are raising our children ourselves, we do, you know, bring out that masculine and feminine energies, but just being aware of that within yourself and doing things that allow you to pamper and nurture yourself, as well as, you know, the things that help you to be proactive and productive, will give you that balance. You know, I think it's all in the heart. That's why our brothers are in pain right now. That's why our sisters are in pain right now. Like, there is no straight down the middle, it's all the men's fault. There is not that anymore, you know?
No.
Some men, I mean, even with me on my radio show, one of my co-hosts, like, he's elder. He's an elder guy, and he's so scared. So scared. He wants to be with a woman, but he's been through so much that he is so scared of what he's going to experience. And when you think about it, there are some really hard women, because we've been hurt, and because there's no dialogue, because there's no communication, there's no, you know what, I understand, I'm sorry, I didn't know any better. Because each side has got the same, can use the same expression. I didn't know any better. What did you see growing up? What did I see growing up? When we really check it, it's a lot of fractured and unstructured existence because of what took place at that time. Don't forget, according to the Willie Lynch letter, that process of slavery and indoctrination was meant to last for another 400 years after we've been enslaved. So that means that our mind and our DNA had been conditioned so much that all of the things that they did to our people back then are running on autoplay right now. And that's how the subconscious works. That's how the subconscious mind works. But that's also how epigenetics works. Information and trauma can be passed down through the DNA. And then the child that's now born has those electromagnetic signals and information in their body of that trauma that they haven't even experienced. Do you understand what I'm saying? So as a collective, we need healing. And it's like, if we look at it like the planet is going through an ascension right now. And in order for her to ascend, she's vibrating really fast. And as she vibrates really fast, all that no longer serves her falls off. You know, parts of her become hot and they burn away. This is the same thing that's happening to us. We are the original children of Earth. So we are also going through that shake-up. We are also having to look at ourselves and do the healing that's necessary to confront our shadow, to be in our truth, and then move forward in harmony. When you look into ancient Kemet, that's where you see the balance once more. Yeah, you see the masculine and the feminine energy in balance. This is where we are going to again. But we're also having to understand that masculine and feminine energy is fluid in the sense that it's not pertained to a man or a woman. It is qualities, it is actions, it's a way of expressing and communicating and experiencing. So once we understand that, then we know, you know, more about ourselves, and we can understand more about our partners. Because if you think about it, we've been looking at them just as being men and expecting all these things from them, not understanding that they have a part inside of them that is feminine, not understanding that they may not even have had a man in their life. They don't know how to do that. You know, we have to be a little bit more allowing and a lot more loving, and start seeing each other in each other's eyes, and also being honest about what it is that we want. Because if I know what I want and I meet somebody and he's nice and we get along, but I explain to him what it is that I want and he's not able to match that, that's cool. We can be friends. But for what I need in my life as a divine reflection, it's not going to work. And that's okay. You know, like for me, I want to be with somebody who is also on their own journey, that we can be masters in our own right and come together to build, you know, that he respects me and I respect him just as he is, and me just as I am. I believe that relationships should come from friendships. You shouldn't have to be trying to chisel yourself into something that you're not, just to be with someone that your ego desires, not your heart, your ego.
No.
You know?
Yeah.
So we've got to learn to forgive each other. Like I said in the beginning, even with this Rkelly thing, we have to learn to forgive the males that have abused us, because it is a archetype. It's an archetype. Even those males are souls. They're not persons. They're not people. A person is a projection of the soul. Yeah, the projection. Yeah. But we're talking about the actual soul. The actual soul. You know, the actual soul is innocent and has chosen to come to be part of this experience because it has something to learn, and so do you. So it's a collective thing where we need to start. The masculine energy the male energy needs to apologize and understand the feminine, and the feminine needs to apologize and understand the masculine. We have to set a new set of foundations and rules which protect all of us and honor all of us, and move forward hand in hand. That is the next stage. That's the goddess aspect. And the reason why it's the goddess is because Most High, the creator, had a thought, and from that thought, he expressed a spirit, a Holy Spirit. That Holy Spirit is the goddess, the essence of God, the essence of God. And that's what each and every single one of us is, the essence of God in this flesh. So once we understand ourselves to be that, we understand that there is only balance and union, because we come from the same thing. We are the same aspect. And then that's how we move into this 5D experience, because it's no longer about you're a man and you're supposed to do this, or you're a woman and you're supposed to do this. It's all about how do you love? How do you love? You know, and that's it. How do you love? Oh, you love like that? Well, I love like this. We can love each other. We might just love each other just for today. We might love each other for the next 5 years. We might love each other and want to bring a whole family around it. Whatever you choose to do, as long as it's from the vibration of love and not the vibration of lack.
A shame, man. Okay, so I mean, we've talked about slavery, we've talked about Kemet.
Yeah.
What about Windrush? What's your perception of how the Windrush has affected us in terms of you know, being Black and our relationships?
I believe that it's twofold. So it's right. I believe it's twofold. So on one hand, it's like our families, our families, grandmothers, whatever, they came over here in the hope of being able to create something better for themselves. But really, what was happening was that the British Empire was calling back some of its slaves as laborers. That's the only difference, right? That's what they were doing, because they needed this country to be built up. But what we don't understand is that London is called the Earth Star chakra of the planet, right? The Earth Star chakra holds all of the ancestral energy, okay? UK is a sovereign state. We are sovereign beings. So they've taken their sovereignty and placed it over us, and we've become the slaves, right? So the reason why many of us Black people are here is to claim our sovereignty, number one. Number two, because all of the ancestral energy is here. If you go in all of the museums, you'll see all of the artifacts from our indigenous cultures from all over the world. That is energy. Does that make sense? So with the Windrush thing, what that brought socially and culturally was a displacement. So even people who came over, they left their families over there. They left their wives, their children, you know what I mean? And they came over here, and they were in a society where everybody's lumped together. And also there's a lot more like white people or different cultures and stuff around. So I believe that what it did on one hand was bring families closer together through suffering and through struggle. But I also think that it allowed those who were confused or wanted to explore more of themselves to reach out and try something different. Now we've got a situation where we need to be going back to our indigenous doing, and what they've shown through the Windrush saga last year is that whatever claim you think that you've got to this place, you don't have any. So that for me helps us to know that our purpose is to come here, to gather whatever wealth and whatever we can, but to go back to our countries and build them up so that we can be the reparations. That's why we're here. We are the reparations. We can create and build. We can look at how this system is built and go back to our homes and develop them.
Yeah.
That's exactly, well, and make it better. Because when you come from outside and you see something, you can see the good and the bad. So you're obviously going to make it better. And I believe that this is kind of like another exodus that's taken place. You know, when we came through the Windrush, that was another exodus. But it means now that we, the ones, can go back and help to build. And a lot of us are having that inspiration. Like for me, my guidance is to go and build healing villages in Ghana, in Jamaica, in Trinidad. Go and buy land and build healing villages, because our people need healing. We all need healing. We need to learn how to live in harmony with the planet again. We need to learn how to live in harmony with each other again. And so we need the space to do that, to be free, to be in nature. But bringing it back to the point, there's a reason why the Windrush thing happened. And it was for us to be here, to claim our divine sovereignty, and to be the ones that could bring change. But it also showed us that the master, or whoever it is that is paying for you to move around, controls you. And they can tell you whenever they feel like it, we want you or we don't want you. So we have to understand that sovereignty is a state of mind. We can't go knocking down people's doors, asking them to acknowledge who we are. We have to know who we are, act as we know who we are, and do like we know who we are. Because it's not about blame and it's not about judgment, but everything in the universe has an ebbs and the flow. 1 minute you'll be on the top, 1 minute you'll be at the bottom, so that you can learn to master both aspects and meet at the middle. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing now. So that's my perspective on that. I believe that there's a much bigger picture at play, and it is about us reclaiming that awareness of who we are and taking it back and developing our countries.
Okay, well, even in terms of the Windrush then, a lot of the grandparents, their relationships were much better, more functioning better. So even though we still have the stigma of the abuse and things like that, they were more able to function with each other in a masculine and feminine dynamics, which clearly has changed as the generations have gone down, you know, have continued, sorry. So, you know, I just wonder where that change happened, because
being here.
Being
here and being exposed to this kind of culture, because when you really think about it, it's only an extension of how we would have been in slavery, right? Which was trying to stay together whether we liked each other or not. You know what I mean? Just learning to compromise, learning to just settle. And in a way, there's nothing wrong with that, especially if it's about survival. But obviously, when you come here, it's a different level, and you have a different experience, because there's more and more choice as well, you know. And I really believe that the struggle is what kept them together. And so when you don't have to struggle in that way anymore, and you can choose to give up on that, then you will go and do that. You will do so. So I believe that the conditions in which their foundations of their love is completely different to now. You know, even their relationships are based on unity. How many relationships do you see over here that are steeped in unity? It's very fickle. You know, if we don't like each other today, then I'm going to leave you, and that's it. We don't have those same grounding, you know, and that same foundation as they had as well. So those are the things that I think, Yeah,
and it brings it back to feeling hurt. And being scared to actually being in relationships because of whatever you've seen people experience, and what you've experienced, and then also the collective damage that's been done to both energies.
If I can give you an example, because now I'm looking at my own family, right? I look at my own gran, and when I look at her, she was growing up in Trinidad up until she was age 16, and for her, you know, she enjoyed being there. She came over here to work, you know, and when she came over here to work, she got in a arranged marriage, or she was in a marriage with another, you know, black man. They were both working on London transport, and it looked good from the outside. But when I hear the stuff that's gone on, it's not nice. And when I see how my mum and her sisters, because they inherited that way of, you know, you don't talk and you don't do this, you don't do that, how as adults they find it very difficult to express things. When I explained to my mum that I was going through sexual abuse, she couldn't deal with it, because when it was happening to her, it wasn't dealt with. And I'm sure before that, it wasn't dealt with. So it's kind of like we've also, us being here is helping to break the chain as well, so that behavior of silencing doesn't continue. You know, and sometimes things have to go really bad in order for them to come back to a kind of balance. But yeah, just looking at her own experience, you know, she endured a lot of crap. But the image was that we were all good, that everyone was fine, everyone was okay, you know. So I don't know how much longer that kind of relationship can last, because there's no real integrity there. You know, everyone has a right to really be happy, you know.
Yeah. And then even like I've noticed that people are even scared to talk about love and, you know, assert or affirm what they expect from relationships and things like that. One of the things that we've been looking at recently in my coaching package is the dynamics of relationships, and looking at your love language and being able to articulate that to your partner, you know, in a feminine way. Because we realize that it's not about talking at men and being dictative. It's almost about learning to be passive when, as women, we've been brought up to just boom, boom, boom. Not necessarily negative aggression, but be assertive and actionable. So it's like we're trying to revert that back, and I'm teaching women how to revert back from that and learning how to be passive and feminine in the ways that they're communicating with masculine energy. You know, even if that masculine energy shows up in the form of women, for example. You know, one of my friends, she's got a colleague at work the woman is quite masculine. She communicates in a very masculine way. You know, where that comes from is neither here or there. However, in order for her to navigate the workspace, she's now learning how to navigate that woman's masculine energy. And it's a struggle for her, because she continuously just sees her as feminine, you know.
That's
But it's still helping her with communicating with the men in her life anyway, having to deal with such a character.
Definitely, definitely. And it's kind of like undoing coping mechanisms, you know. We don't know
Yeah.
woman really wants to be a man. Like, we want to be nurtured, we want to be looked after, we want to be spoiled, we want to be provided for and protected. But how many times have we said that to a man and he's looked at us like, are we crazy? Or we're a gold digger, or we're this or we're that. And so we're going
Yeah.
through a resurgence. We're going through a resurgence in that as well, because a man wants to protect and provide. A man wants you to have your expectations, because then it allows him to expand. It allows him to have something to aspire to. So we do have to learn to speak our truths, but we also have to learn to balance those energies and be honest in the fact that we may not have had the right influences or the right role models or experiences, and that we're willing to learn, you know. And I believe that once we both meet each other in that space, seeing ourselves in each other, making love to getting to know each other just as they are, then we're going to have more fulfilling relationships. You felt that, innit? Girl.
Yeah, because like literally it's about loving each other exactly the way that we are, you know, and loving that man, not for the fact that he's driving, not for the fact that he has the relevant utensils in his home, not for the fact of what his bank account looks like, not for the fact necessarily of how he looks. What does his heart say? You know, someone said to me, why do you enjoy your partner so much? And I said, because of his heart.
Yeah,
He's got
but you're supposed to enjoy him. You're supposed to enjoy him. You know, that's the person that you're going to share your deepest, darkest secrets with, and learn so much about yourself. Another thing is that we as women, and I was asking a male this the other day, a man this the other day, you know, is it wrong for me to feel like my partner as a man, you know, is there to help me to be greater? And I don't mean in terms of finances. And, you know, and he was like, of course. But I know I've been in relationships where I'm looking for my partner to look at, to reflect to me any flaws that I have and help me to be greater. And he's like, well, that's not my job. But I'm supposed to do that for him. It makes no sense to me. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. We don't understand what it really means.
Yeah,
we don't understand what it really means to be masculine and feminine and work together as a union. But I think we are coming into the awakening of that. The more and more that we have these conversations, and also the more that we've had our heart broken, we know what we don't want anymore of.
Yeah. But when we're ready, I mean, I've met a lot of women recently who are like, you know, they just want to be on their own, but it's not from a space of healing. It's from a space of setting some kind of standard. And I'm like, you can't set a standard without being in the situation to set the standard. You've actually avoided being in the situation and proclaiming that you're setting a standard. Well, I get it. However, there's a difference between setting a standard through self-healing and a difference between avoiding a situation to set a standard.
Yeah.
You know, so
I receive you. I receive you, and it's right, because some people would rather just keep themselves to themselves. Some people would rather be lesbian or gay to avoid having to deal with themselves. That's how deep it can be, right? But at the same time, people get fed up of that, because being on your own can be a positive thing, because really what we're supposed to do at that time is set a standard by reflecting on what has happened before in the past relationships, thinking about who you want to be and what you want to attract, and using that meantime to get yourself in alignment with that. Because a lot of people want things that they are not even aligning with. You want a man that's going to love you and be caring, but you're not loving and caring to yourself. You're not even loving and caring to your children. So how are you going to attract that? We have to understand that it's not just about what we think and what we say. It's about vibration. It's about energy. And so if your heart is not saying the right thing, sending the right message out to the universe, you're not going to get what you want anyway. You're going to get more of what you need to learn the lessons that you need to learn, you know. So I feel like we're in a space right now where, as I said, a lot of people are tired. I was in a marriage for 12 years, and then I had to go through almost 3 years of celibacy. But that wasn't, for him, that was for me. I needed to take all of my power back. I needed to understand who I was, because when we go in relationships, we transform ourselves so much. into all the little bits that we think the person wants us to be, that we lose ourselves. You know, we lose an understanding of who we truly are. And so what it was for me was that I needed to literally reclaim back all parts of myself and figure out who I was now. And then even when I had like males advancing to me, I'd have to say to them, I'm not ready. Yeah, I'm not ready to be in a relationship, because at that point I was feeling like, you know, I don't want to cook sometimes, or I don't want to pacify anyone. I just want to be in my own thing. And I'm not disrespectful, so I'd never do that to a male, but I'm saying I had to understand that I was not ready to have a relationship yet. You know, I still needed to feed myself. I still needed to be in my messy state, so I know myself fully, so that when I'm going into a relationship with someone, I can present my full self, and I don't have a false idea about who he is either. I can allow him to be who he is, because I've allowed myself to be who I am, and get to know that as well. And also, I can see from far off a man who might want to be with me, but isn't ready and still has to work on himself. And I just give him love. You know, I don't give any false hopes, because love is the ultimate foundation. From love, loving yourself, loving others, then you can grow. And if me and you's meant to be together, that friendship will grow into something greater. But my focus is not on having a partner. My focus is on being my own, being comfortable with my own skin. Every person who comes into my reality is a partner of mine, because they are part of me, you know. But that one that's going to have that space reserved in my heart, that's going to come from the more we get to know each other, the more he grows, the more I grow. So I'm not in a rush to put a label on anything, but my heart knows exactly what it's looking for. And what it is as well, for once in my life, I have a standard, but I didn't have the standards while I was in the relationship. That's what I was trying to say to you before. When you get into a relationship, you might do it because the person's going through some stuff and you want to be there for them. You know, there's so many different reasons why we go into relationships, but we do not, before we go into those relationships, set a plan of what it is that we actually want to experience, who it is that we are, what is our bottom line. And that's not a negative thing. You have to have a bottom line. You have to know yourself. You have to know that if the person you're with isn't doing this minimum, I can't live with him. Simple things like, if he don't know how to clean up after himself, and he just leaving all of his underpants all over the floor, do you know what I mean? That might be my bottom line. I can't deal with that. So if I don't, if I'm not aware of that, then I'll go with a man who looks nice and he's got money, but then me and him's going to be arguing every day, because the simple thing like him putting his pants on the floor, I can't deal with that, you know? So we have to be more conscious.
Of all the aspects that annoy us or whatever. The other day I had a guy call me, for example, and he was complaining about his baby mother. And he was saying that he's, you know, he wants to be in love with her, but she doesn't understand him. And he keeps going with other women. It's like he's still seeking women out there. So I was like, okay, well, give me some examples of what she's like. He said, okay, then even the way that she deals with the children. She doesn't like have things like what was it? She doesn't have, like, you know, the training bottles for them to start drinking juice from, or the kid doesn't have like a special knife and fork and things like that. And he was like, am I being petty? And I was like, no, you're noticing that she's not maternal. She's not nurturing. That's what you're noticing. And he was like, huh? I said, she's a masculine woman. Well, you've actually just looked at her as a woman. He gave me some other exampple, but I just wanted to share that one because I found that one quite interesting myself. You know, she doesn't know, she's not good at maintaining the house and all those types of things. And I said, that's, you know, some men are very good at things like that. However, it's predominantly male. It's a masculine attribute to not be nurturing in that way. So she's not feminine, basically. And he was like, and this is what he said, is attracted to the women, the new women that he's been attracted to. He's realized now through the conversation that he had with me, is that is actually attracted to the feminine aspect of those women. I said, because if you look at those women that you're with, those new women that you're with, you've actually subconsciously already dissected what you don't like about your baby mother.
and
That's it.
you subconsciously have already identified the qualities that you want in those new women. Now, if you can, or that new woman, if you can do that consciously, you will pick one woman, you know, rather than kind of scattering around with unsurety. And he was like, I said, well, you know, keep in touch and whatever, but you know, it's a shame that they can't be together because that's her personality. And when he articulated the fact that she's not very feminine to her, she got offensive and offended and started cussing him out. But you know, that shows that they're not.
I mean,
they're not
I can fully
compatible
understand that. I can fully understand that. To me, they are compatible because they taught each other the lessons that they needed. But what you've highlighted as well is that, yeah, some women, like we might say it's that they're not maternal, but if it was me and I was working with her, what's her childhood like? What was her mother like towards her? Because some,
well, she wasn't my client. It was the man that was my client.
No, I totally get that. I'm just looking at it from, I'm just looking at the other side. Yeah. I'm just giving the reflection, the other side of it, you know, because with a lot of the women that I've worked with, and even with myself, right? I was a heavy nurturer as a child. I was the eldest out of 4. I was constantly looking after everyone to the point where if I go to a family member's house, all of my aunties would dump all their kids on me. I was just that kind of person. But I'd been through so much trauma that when it came to having my own children, I felt completely disconnected from them. I really felt completely disconnected. If anything, they felt like, you know, when you grow up in a community and you know kids grow up together, they're like your friends, your sister friends, your brother friends. It did not dawn to me anywhere in my energy field that I was this mother. Yeah, this nurturer. This is not a joke. And you kind of you know, you beat up yourself because you think, well, it's not supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be all nice and blah, 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 blah. But I had to look into my childhood and I realized, well, I didn't get nurtured. I was born nurturer, but I didn't get that nurturing. So I didn't get to learn what it's like to be a mother. Because you can be a nurturer and a friend and a sister and an auntie, but to be a mother is something completely different. And it was only in that moment when I realized that I didn't have that I realized that I didn't have it externally because it was already inside of me. So I had to tune into that which was already inside of me. I had to let the inner child accept that the reason why it didn't experience it is because that's what it was. It was already that. You know, my mum is an independent soul. She's come to learn what she's come to learn. But for me, she came to teach me that I am the mother. Like the energy that I carry is the mother. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just saying that we do find a lot of females as well who aren't as maternal as they could be, and they beat themselves up about that. But that's because of what they've been experiencing as well. Hence why this time, that's why this time, sis, is really about males speaking to males, females speaking to females, and then everyone coming together and speaking to each other, so that we can get this full 360 degrees worth of
get it right.
That's it. Listen, girl, I'm very optimistic. I'm so in love with our kings at the moment right now.
I think we can do it. I think we can do it. I think we can, and it's nice to the fact that, you know, even when the guy opened up to me in that way, I was like, oh, this is really cool. You know, it just made me feel girly. That, you know, even though I was a client and I had to be really professional. It was still like, oh, this is really cool. You know, men are coming and trying to inquire about, you know, what's going on with the feminine energy, etc., etc. So it was really good. Yeah. But we've gone over a little bit anyway. So just let us know where we can find you, your book. I know you've got a book.
Okay, family. So I'm going through a major expansion at the moment. So there'll be lots of good things coming up. But you can find me on Facebook. Amenti Anita Francis on Facebook, or Amenti the Awakener. I am on Instagram, Amenti the Awakener. I'm on YouTube, Amenti the Awakener or Amenti the Oracle, because that was my old page. My book is called 12 Seeds to Awaken Your Spirit. That's available on Amazon, or you can order directly from me. And it's a very comprehensive workbook that helps you to go from understanding who you are as a soul aspect, and then journeying through the different things that we have to go through as humans. So understanding your shadow, turning your pain into your power, mastering the universal laws. And it's not just information, it's my healing experience through poetry, and then there's a workbook. So every section that you read in that book, you have the opportunity to work on yourself. And that is because we are all going through this awakening, and there is a certain foundation level of work that we all have to do that will make all of the rest of it so much easier. And so that is what is contained in the book at the moment. This year, I'm focusing a lot, as we've spoken about, to do with masculine and feminine balancing and also healing. So I'm going to be facilitating some healing circles starting in March after the solstice around bringing men and women together. And in this sacred space, what we're going to do is things like forgiveness rituals. Now, these people don't have to be couples. It's just men and women. But we are going to tune into the spirit of a lot of the things that we've done to each other in the past and bring forgiveness and bring healing. Learn to develop a level of intimacy which is not about sex, but it's about care and it's about love. And just creating a space where people can come together and just experience love of the highest vibration and healing. Because I think it's so important right now. We've lost the ability to communicate, and we won't let somebody love us unless we're making love to them, unless we're having sex with them. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You know, we should feel safe with our brothers, and our brothers should still feel safe to protect us. And we should be able to heal each other in love without it having to be through sex or, you know, power control. So part of my purpose is to just bring some of that knowledge and wisdom back, but practically, you know, practically, not just talking. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on that, and I'll be posting that on my page as well. So that's me.
Awesome.
But thank you, Sis. I love talking to you. I love talking to you. So thank you. Thank you to everybody that's listening as well.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next week. I'll have another guest on next week, Sasha Johnson. She was on the BBC yesterday talking about her journey to self-love and giving people tips and advice on her transformation journey. So we look forward to that next week, Thursday at 8:30. Hi, Delisa. Yeah, so thank you, Amenti. Ashe, Mama.
Bye, Queen. Bye, everybody.
Bye for now. Nichananda.